and actually shift a little bit because they're reworking one of the staff, the starting crests, and it might actually be useful to get it, but I don't know. That's going to be another video that I'm going to talk about later on. In any event, so the first thing I'm going to go through is I'm going to get my Guardian crest. Now I'm going to build this Guardian crest, and a lot of people think that the crests are your foundation of your build, and it's not. This is just something that you need, this is something that you should use as like a perk, as a small little perk that grows with your character and just defines your character ever more so as that actual individual. It's basically a defensive ability, defensive item, but in a bigger scale than any of the legendary items and anything like that because of its actual effects. So I eventually get sanctification, and the reason behind that is because my build is actually based on a health and based on mana regeneration. And what does this actually item do? Well, the active item is called Safeguard. It grants yourself and nearby allies a 250, not too impressive, shield, but plus 12% of caster's maximum health, which can actually scale to a huge number in a battle. When you're talking about allied heroes, that means anybody that's grouped together that I alt and use in the same time, it becomes a massive shield. While the shield holds, heroes gain 60% tenacity. The cooldown's 120 seconds. You don't really need to use this more than 2 minutes. Let's just be honest. If you do, you're fighting too much. But this is great. This is something that if you're losing a fight, it can turn the fight around with Muriel. With her ultimate and this together, that makes that character have, no matter what health pool they have, half health. At the very least, they'll have a half health wherever they're at. And that's enough to turn the fight around and actually win. So that's, again, not a foundational item, just an item that you get that grows with your character and defines you just a little bit more. And it's really good. Defensive items, very good. Very, very good item. In any event, we're going to go down to our items. So the first item that we're going to build is Requiem, and we're going to go ahead and move all the way up to the Hallowed Braid. So we're going to go ahead and get Energy Stream for the plus 50% mana regeneration, and then we're going to move up and get the Hallowed Braid. Now we're going to hold on to this particular item because it only costs 1,000. It's pretty great, and Hero's Death grant a stack of Elegy. What is Elegy? Well, it stacks up to 20. What is Elegy? Each stack grants 1 magical power and 10% base mana regeneration. So 20 magical power and 80%? That's 100% mana regeneration. So again, that's about 150 mana regeneration once it's stacked to 20, which is very easily done once you get that item in the very start. So you see why I'm getting with this. It stacks. But why wouldn't you just go ahead and get the whole thing? Doesn't the stacks shouldn't they don't move over, do they? Well, they actually do. So there's no hurry to actually get the Requiem item, because look what you see. When a hero dies, gain a stack of Elegy, get 20 stacks, get 1 magical power, 10%. It grants you the same thing. The only difference is the stats, obviously, once you evolve to the final form. And not only that, but the grant nearby allies 1 physical power and 0.5% lifesteal per stack of Elegy. That's huge, but it's only really relevant whenever that stacks onto the other people's with items that they have, which they shouldn't have at the start. So there's no point in wasting your money and getting this particular item that there's no real big benefit for. So instead of going to this, we're going to get the Hallowed Braid. All right? And then we're going to go ahead and move over to what's the weirdest item that a lot of people don't like me using. And that's Stonewall. Why do I get Stonewall with Muriel? A lot of people don't even think about this item, and maybe there's a better item. You let me know in the comments. That what I'm trying to serve is not only obviously survivability, because this is going to be my second item, But with the rest of the items kit that I have a pretty decent amount of magical resistance and health. So why not capitalize on the foundational item, which is health, and gain a huge amount of physical armor, so that way I can take the blows whenever I do ult in for that team fight. Because you remember, Muriel is ulting, and she's gonna most likely ult the person that's in the center of the entire, or in the front lines, or just right there in front of the enemies. She's gonna get a blow, and depending on this item, what it actually does. But this also gives, and it solves Muriel's huge gap problem with the other supports, which gives her a CC, Shockwave. Taking damage that would reduce you below 40% maximum health unleashes a shockwave, stunning all nearby enemies for 1 second, which is an absolute maniac. I've witnessed it firsthand. I'm actually going to take clips of where it survived, where it actually saved me, in almost 80% of the time it's done it. But not only that, the 30% of the times that this stuns it, it gives me my jungle or my carry or mid or whatever the case may be enough time to kill them. It's actually done this several times, surprisingly, and it's really good item. I try to work around other items, like I try to use the frost item that whenever you shoot somebody, whenever you hit somebody, it stacks, and then at the final stack it roots them. But I don't have any damaging abilities. Muriel shouldn't stack attack speed with stunt with being a support character. So what's the real use of that? I'm getting 2 stacks, 3 stacks, then they disappear. 2 stacks, 4 stacks, 5 stacks because I used my Q. Nope. So it was a very useless item. This solves a lot. So Bulwark was also another reason why I love this item too. Take 10 decreased damage from physical abilities, which is the jungle's abilities. Most jungle abilities. And most jungle abilities that pull you in and then boom you with those combos. This really does put a damper into that. And I love it so much. And it scales to 7.5% bonus physical armor, which it gives me a huge amount, and my other items give me another big amount, which adds up to almost 200 physical armor. So you do the math on that one. I'm too lazy, and it's really good. It's proven. I've shown people on stream, on videos, on clips that this item saves and prolongs fights, changes the way you play Muriel. Instead of making you a backline character, it makes you on par with most of the supports that you're up against. The only thing I have a hard time with is people like Richter and people like Shinibi. Those 2 characters, the only characters that I can see that will count as sometimes that get away with all this stuff. Because they have teleports or they have means of other multiple. So great item. I love it. I absolutely do. The other item I get is Marshall. This is the 3rd item I get, Marshall, and I love this item, and it's just simply because this is absolutely one of the best items to get for a support character yourself. So because of Sheriff, yourself and nearby ally heroes gain 20% attack speed and deal 15 magical damage on hit. That may sound familiar. Well, it's because I talked about it in my first video. This stacks with Muriel's already powerful passive, plus 1 per the target's level. So when I right click my target, when I right click my carry, and I have this item, they're producing almost 60% attack speed. It's ridiculous. It increases, obviously there's a cap with their items included, but it makes it to where they can reach their cap even sooner in mid fights, because this time I have my 3rd item. I should be in mid fight about 15 minutes to 18 minutes in the game at this point. Next item I get may sound very familiar to you, is Requiem. What? No, I mean, we're going to finish up Requiem to get that remembrance, to grant nearby allies that 1 physical power and 0.5% lifesteal per stack. Remember I said they shouldn't have this. This shouldn't matter because they don't have any items that this can stack with right away, right? But this solves it. We're in mid-fight. So by the time I get this, we're about 20 minutes to 24 minutes into the game. So at this time, we should be destroying their final turrets and moving in and actually trying to make a damper into their main base, right? Well, we need that lifesteal to prolong that survivability on the enemy's turf, right? We're going to need that extra power, the physical power, to make sure that we can sustain ourselves and as well as sustain our jungle or our carry if they use that. So it's a very good item at this point in the fight with Muriel. All right. My fourth item I get, and this is where it varies. So instead of Marshall, I might get Tainted Totem, and that's if I'm going up against a Narbash or multiple characters on the team that have lifesteal and require it. Like a Chimera and a Countess together, I would get Tainted Totem before I would get Marshall, and then I would get, at that point, I would actually get Tainted Totem, then Marshall, then finish up Requiem, because the fights actually, those type of fights are actually going to make it last longer. So at that point, it shouldn't make a difference. It should equal it all out. So I should be at 28 minutes when I get Requiem at that point. And then after this, and the reason why I get this Tainted Totem is because of its passive. Nearby enemies have their healing reduced by 40% and are slowed by 10%. You're gonna also see that there's a pattern with what items I'm getting. I'm stacking on the foundation that I already have, right, with the 2 items, and I'm adding just a little bit more with each item to make it a little bit better. So I'm not teetering on one side. I'm actually building a foundation where everything is leveled and it still can make a difference. So if that makes any sense, a little bit of a Tetris analogy, I guess you could say, for it. Nirvana. Nearby allies receive 15% increased healing and shielding. Healing isn't really significant for supports, really, besides Narbash. That's not really that significant for anybody. But a shielding for my character, that is huge, and it slows. So this is a huge thing for Muriel. I have multiple slows, now I have a CC, and I have ways to bump my shield percentage. So this now, late game that we're in their main base, I should have more survivability, and I should have them at the disadvantage because of these debuffs. Granted, they're going to have items that are going to counter these things, but it's always to make things leveled out, right? If anything gets unbalanced, it really becomes a matter of who can use their Q or R faster, right? Well, we shouldn't make it that. We should make it to where it's skillful fights. So this is where the game excels at. Now, my final item is up in the air. I have yet to receive actually anything better than with this build that I have than getting Crystal Tier. And this is my final item I get, because this locks in the foundation like a good roof. And I've been experimenting with Azure Core, but I don't really get much mana out of this build. And Azure Core only grants magical power equal to maximum mana. So this really doesn't really make a difference. I've already tested this out. I don't get anything. I've tested out Astral Catalyst, which is a really good item you can use on Muriel for a mage Muriel, but it's nothing that a support Muriel should have. A Wellspring is actually a good item to have as well, but I've tested the healing, and the healing isn't significant enough to actually use this ability or rely on these 2 passives. Rather than stacking my shielding abilities with magical power and my ability haste, I'd much rather have this passive where it's relevant for my carry and my jungle at the final fight. This secures the final ability and power that I need to tip the difference between that support and me. And I have yet to find anything else. And in my streams, we're going to find that out tonight. So, again, this is the Muriel build that I have. Alright. I'm going to continuously change it once the new patch comes out, because it's changing a huge part of Muriel. So again, I appreciate all the support. Thank you guys so much. Like, subscribe, give me a comment, let me know what else I should dive into. for the next support character. Next